Hello and welcome to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. My name is Natalie Himmelrich. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is completely self-funded, produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. Consider making a small donation to support the podcast. Go to bit.ly/support, capital G, capital T, and podcast. I repeat, bit.ly/supportgt podcast. Thank you so much. And for more information, please visit Natalie's website, join the podcast Instagram page, and subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates on future episodes. So welcome everyone to another episode of How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. And this episode today, I will be speaking with Tamara. And Tamara has been one of those parents that I've interviewed 10 years ago, since we then spoke first for the series of interviews that I conducted in research for the book Grieving Parents Surviving Loss as a Couple. So those of you who've listened to other episodes in this series, they know that we're just looking back over the past 10 years and what milestones that might have happened then. But today, Tamara Gabriel is the full name of my guest. She has an interesting story because her loss is almost 30 years ago. So again, we get a perspective of the last 10 years, but also the whole spectrum of time that has passed since Janna was killed in a car accident. But I'll let you speak about the history a little bit more. But thank you so much for joining me today, Tamara.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
So, as I said, we spoke first more than 10 years ago because Grieving Parents Surviving Loss as a Couple was released in August, September 2014. So 24 would have been 10 years. So, but as of recording this, we're a little bit more than 10 years. But why don't we start by you telling the listener a little bit about your story and Janna so that they get an understanding of where you're coming from in relation to grief and trauma.
So Janna was 9 years old, and she was definitely full of life. And she had an older brother who was Ryan. And they were literally 2 years apart because they were both born on my birthday. And I also have a twin, so the four of us. It was always kind of fun. And we actually only celebrated one time together. But I had just graduated from school for massage therapy and was going to celebrate with a friend of mine. And I had recently left my husband of almost 13 years. So I had been separated, and my son went to stay with my mom. And my daughter was with me, and I thought, well, this is going to be fun because we'll have this girl time together. And we were driving. It was around July. The roads in upstate New York had just been recently paved with tar, and it had rained a little bit. So the oils apparently had picked up on the road. I found all this out afterwards, but I was going around a curve to a friend's house to celebrate the fact that she was moving. And my car hydroplaned, and it went into the other lane. Car had collided on the side of my daughter and impacted where she was sitting. And someone came to knock on my window, and I looked over and I thought maybe we just pulled over to take a nap. It didn't register. And he told me I was in an accident. And I had actually known his face because from something previous. And she had to be taken out by the jaws of life. And I had to be taken to another hospital. And then she was ultimately airlifted to a trauma hospital in New York City. And I had to leave the hospital AMA, against medical advice, the next day because I had internal bleeding. I had a head injury, neck injury, and I ended up being leaving the hospital. The doctor had said to me, if it was my child, I would leave too. You know, we were 1 second laughing, and I said, Janna, when was the last time I said I loved you? And she said, last year. You know, and she was giving me candy because she always had to have candy and telling me jokes. And next thing I know, I'm like, this can't be real. So my friend came to pick me up. I had asked her dad to go to the hospital. My dad was a priest and my mom, they had flown in. They were all really upset at the fact that I had left my husband. And so people really weren't talking to me. It was very awkward for me to even be around my own child because of the anger and the angst of the people around me that I was feeling. And so I stayed with my daughter for during the day in a lot of pain. I mean, I was in excruciating pain, again, due to the whiplash, the head trauma, the accident. And she had a brain injury, a broken pelvis, and she was in a coma for a week. And I had just started my spiritual journey as a massage therapist and was really starting to get in touch with myself. And I thought, well, maybe God gave her to me and I'm going to work because I became a massage therapist. I'm going to be able to help her. And then I had sat with this woman who does, she's a Reiki master and a healer. And she said, after the 6th day, she said she's gone. Like her body was there, but her basically, and I had seen a rainbow in the sky that day going over the Tappan Zee Bridge. And I literally thought to myself, that's Janna in the rainbow. And by the time I got there, I said, I could tell that she was gone. And I verbally told her she could go. And I went home that night and they called me from the hospital to come back. By the time I get there, she's going to be gone. And she was. And it was just so horrific that you can't imagine, as you know, being told that your child has died. And it was a week later after her being in a coma. And the fact that people were mad at me from before. And because I was driving the car, I said, I vowed to never forgive myself. That's it. I'm never going to forgive myself. I left my child. God punished me. He took my child. That's what I thought. And it wasn't enough that I was punishing myself. My family was, my ex was, my husband said to me, I would never blame you for this. And I thought, he blamed me for a miscarriage. He called me a loser for miscarriage. So I thought, I can't even imagine going back to him, knowing that how he treated me back in the day. So I ended up really kind of just broken. And a friend of mine stayed with me. And again, my family, we had the funeral, and my family didn't want her at the funeral. A friend of mine. So it literally everywhere I turned, I was getting punched in the gut. And my son was mad at me. He just had a lot of anger to begin with. And I just kept getting torn down, left, right, and center. And I had found out that my family, because I wouldn't do what they wanted me to do, basically disowned me and wanted nothing to do with me. If I didn't do what they wanted, then they wouldn't help me. My dad had been in the church. No one from the church called me. The priest didn't call me. All the areas we've lived in all over United States, none of those people called me. And I just felt so all alone. And it's really one of the darkest, they say I can't remember that phrase about you're trying to find the tunnel where the light is. Although I couldn't find it. I was looking and looking. And a friend of mine that my mom didn't really like, my dad put his arm around her and said, if you don't leave this funeral now, there's going to be a blow up. And so it just, again, there was just so much angst everywhere I turned. And my husband at the time, he was still my husband, he even tried to sue me for her death for $300,000 and tell me it wasn't personal. My son would say things to me when I would go to a client's house. I hope your client beats you and rapes you. I mean, he was just, so 8 months after Janna died, I got sober. I'm like, nobody called me on my birthday, and it's not like you could forget it. So it was in March of 1998, I got sober. And I remember I walked in and the people said to us, let us love you till you can love yourself. And I thought, you're going to hate me like my family does. No one's going to want to be around me. Everybody hates me. And I literally said, I had screamed I had screamed actually 2 weeks before that and said, God, if you help me, I will help whoever comes my way. And that's when I found myself in AA 2 weeks later. And that was, like I said, March 7th of 1998. It was the last time I ever took a drink. And it was a journey where it really did teach me how to love myself. And it taught me, and I wasn't drinking and driving at the time. I just was drinking because I didn't know what else to do with my feelings. I just was so overwhelmed with grief and waking up every day to the fact that my child was gone. I had never been away from her more than like 2 days as she spent time at a relative's house. So this was just excruciating. She was the one person, Natalie, that loved me. The one person in my life who loved me unconditionally. And everybody around me was angry and throwing just so much hate and vitriol my way. And the fact that I grew up the daughter of a priest, things just didn't match up. That family, nobody was cut off from everybody. So one of the great things that I found, I read an article by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And she said, the reasons why we're here are for unconditional love, for ourselves and others, for compassion for ourselves and others, and for forgiveness for ourselves and others. And those three statements really took me a long way, where I had to, especially in my journey of recovery, had to learn to forgive myself. And every day I got better, every day that I stayed away from the drink. Every day, and then I went to Compassionate Friends, and I thought, these people were mad at the doctor. They were mad at the drunk driver. They were mad at the plowman that killed their child. They were mad at the murderer. And I thought, who am I going to be mad at? I was mad at myself. But I literally, every day that I would try to stay sober or try to do something good for myself, I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay alive. And I'm going to prove these, I'm going to show them who I am. Because if I died or killed myself, then everything they said about me was true. That I'm crazy, that I'm nuts, that I'm a loser, and I said, the best revenge is a good life. And that's what I did. I literally took something out of that and I just grabbed it left, right, and I said, I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to do the opposite of really how I feel. And I'm going to use those insults and those berating and anger thrown my way. And I'm going to use them as stepping stones to grow and show everybody how strong I really am. And actually, people say I'm strong. I don't say I'm strong. I say I'm rebellious. That's what I'm, like a rebel, And, my mother had attempted suicide several times and I didn't want to be like her. She has an addiction to the pills. I didn't want to be like her. And I really wanted to show my son, as awful as he was, what it's like to be. And about 10 years after, I don't know if you knew this at the time. Maybe it was after we had a conversation. My ex drank himself to death.
Oh.
And it was just before his 50th birthday. And my son said to me, Mom, I realized you were there for me all along. Every day, again, I was afraid to lose another child because my son was doing drugs. He was getting in trouble in school. And he actually, at 22 is always like this magic number for me. Plus, my kids are born 222 myself. And he said to me, Mom, Lenny and Pop always said that you were crazy. He says they're the crazy ones. He just had this epiphany at 22 when he called me after I cut him off because he was back to stealing and doing drugs again from my mom. And he said, Mom, I realized I was going to be a homeless sociopath dead at 25. And that's where I thought my life was going. And he said, I enjoyed hurting you. I enjoyed punishing you. and I enjoyed making you cry. And the thought of doing that now makes me nauseous. And I said to him, Ryan, welcome to the human race and what it's like to have a conscience. Like sometimes things would just come, like words would come out of my mouth and I'm like, I don't know where that came from. But I really was praying for him because I had been told by therapists, let them go. Let your parents go. Let your son go. They're narcissists. They're sociopaths. Stay away. And I literally changed that thought and said, you know what? I'm going to see him different and I'm going to see my parents as different. And I don't know. It's like it was a miracle that my son turned his life around because he's gone through being suicidal. He's been through cancer. He got a diagnosis in 2020 and I found his cancer when I was massaging him. And it was the thyroid cancer at 33. At 33, I also had half my thyroid taken out. I had been diagnosed at 33 with autoimmune disease. But anyway, it was just like we now have a great relationship. And I'm married for a third time. I have an amazing husband. And the irony of it all is that I married a psychiatrist, which, again, I was the crazy one, right? And married a psychiatrist. And he's been an amazing role model for my son. My son, who was doing meth and getting into trouble and on probation, he's like cleaned himself up and he works for Apple. He's been promoted, he's been, and it's just like, I don't know how I ended up where I am, but I had started when we moved to Arizona, a nonprofit, My Healing Hugs. Mm-hmm. And in these past 10 years, I've had fundraisers where because that dance is like healing for me. I love dancing. And so because I started dancing, I started doing Zumba. So the Zumba community has been very powerful to me. And what I started to say earlier, which I forgot to backtrack, in my early recovery, I started to reaching out to jails. I reached out to the women in the jails. Service work, support is of the utmost importance, I find, in our grief, in our travels, because I don't want my daughter's memory to go in vain. I don't want this death to be nothing. So I have used that to help other women, to help other families. And I worked in the jail system for I volunteered, I should say. I ran women's groups to help other women, to teach them about themselves or teach them they could get their kids back or teach them about women's empowerment. And this new program, this Healing Hugs that I had started, helps families. So my husband sees some of the patients. I work with the patients. And I have raised money to help with funerals, therapy, if they need incidentals. Sometimes it's been Christmas gifts, like just give them a gift card to the grocery store. It's been rent. It's been a car payment. And some of them I don't even know. I've just called up the funeral brothers and said, okay, for this, and this, I'm hooked up with the hospital. So the social worker will call me and say, I have a family. Can you do this? And I just say, okay. And this past year, we raised over $17,000. And it's been, again, this is a whole God thing. People say it's me. I don't say it's me. I say it's the community. I just put it out there that the communities come to help these parents that are in need. And there's no other, I don't think I've seen an organization like it. Or if you've even heard of one, I don't know.
I mean, I've just heard your story in full again, and you have not just gone through the loss of your daughter, but a lack of support. More so than a lack of, the opposite of support in your vicinity, in your family surrounding. So when I just heard that again, it's pain upon pain. I mean, we know, you also named it, that the support that is available or that we can gather, that we can find, it may not come from the family or the closest or those that we expect to be there for us. It might come from somewhere else, but it's pivotal. You mentioned that, you said, and I want to echo that. It's really important. But what your story actually exemplifies is that you looked elsewhere. You didn't get stuck on closed doors. You actually said, well, okay, well, if these doors are closed, what do I do next? And from what you said, like AA was significant in that sense to help you understand and learn to love yourself. And then also the article that you mentioned. And I think it's so beautiful to see, to look back, so over this almost 30 years, and to see how life has changed. And you know, the loss of a child is significant, and it takes years to process, to live with, to integrate, to continue living in whatever way that is. And so thank you for sharing so much detail as well in terms of what has happened. And because we have so many years to look back, it gives us quite a number of milestones. So your son Ryan, we just spoke about him before we got on air. How old is he now?
He's 38. He will be 39 next month on our birthday. And he'll be coming here with his girlfriend, which is just amazing. They both just recently traveled to Switzerland. And, you know, it's nice because my son's doing things that he's never done before. And again, by me allowing the healing, he has been able to allow himself to heal and to grow, because he saw the death of his dad and also what he didn't want. Like, I really do believe people show us what we want and what we don't want in life. And he wants something more. He does want love. And love is a really powerful lesson and tool in why we're here. Like I said before, forgiveness. And after my daughter died 9 years, my aunt's son was killed in a car accident. He was 26. And she apologized. She says, I had no idea what we put you through, and I am so sorry. And the two of us actually collaborated as part of a book called Lost, Survive, and Thrive that was written about 6-7 years ago. And it deals with parents of all different types that have lost a child, military parents, newborns, you know, car accidents. And her accident and mine are actually it's the same chapter. So it's interesting to see my perspective and then my aunt's perspective, because she's my dad's sister. We're only 12 years apart. We were pregnant together with our youngest, which is interesting, who also lives here in Arizona, which is funny. But it's amazing how life kind of crosses and intersects, and try to take from it the lessons. You know, they say take the lessons and the blessings, let blessings from it. And it's not easy. It's work. It's definitely work. But I used to not think my son and I were going to make it, you know, but just on faith alone, we're here. And that the fact that people that have seen us and knew us back then, people wanted nothing to do with us, you know, like a lot of my younger friends. And they can't believe him, the turnaround that he's done. So.
Has there been any change in the relationship to your parents since then?
Since then, yes. Now my parents moved here to Arizona. I can't say that I'm back in, you know, the will, whatever, so to speak. My dad died a couple of years ago, and I was able to be there for him. And I remember him saying to me, I said, Dad, do you need anything? Can I do anything? And he just said, do you want anything? He said, I want your love. I mean, this was just a couple days before he died. And when he would see me, his face would light up, because obviously the last two, he couldn't talk much, but his face would light up. My mom's very difficult. And during that time, I had to keep my distance from her, because multiple times she would tell me, you don't have a mother, and she would get mad at me. And I finally stood up to her and I said, because she had told rumors that I was drinking and driving and my daughter died. Family still believed that up to a couple of years ago. They had Like this was a rumor in the family. And I'm like, nobody reached out to me. I didn't get arrested. Like my mother spread lots of lies and gossips about me. So anyway, I said to her, she's not all there. I said to her, after several months after my dad died, I said, listen, I'm not going to get into the drama. I don't care how much drugs you do. I don't care what the pills you do. If you start up with me, I'm out. But I'll be here for you and I'll help you. And she's actually been very receptive. And I have to set boundaries with her, of course. Just, we got her to move into a smaller place. And she's very independent still. She wants to do her own thing. She wants to go to the casino. She will, she will still lie. And she forgets that I have her on follow my phone. And it's like, she'll tell me she's somewhere else when she's, but again, I take her for what she is. What she does is on her. How I respond to her is on me. I want to see my daughter again. So I want to be the best person I can be. And as long as she's not starting trouble, I will be here to support her. Mm-hmm. And I can use some of the stuff that we go through together. I don't know, maybe stand-up comedy. I don't know. But I try to take it with humor because humor is also the number one resiliency. When you're going through, there's like 7 of them. I forget them all. I just remember humor as being one of them, the number one. So I will use humor to deal with her. And sometimes I have to treat her like a child, and I'm okay with that. Hmm. So accepting her where she's at helps the situation.
Hmm. So let's maybe take a look at specifically how your grief developed over all those years. I mean, you sort of gave us a little bit of an insight into the beginning part, mm-hmm. and how you started to deal with it through different ways that also happened in your life. But if you were to look at the whole space of time since Janna died, what would you say? How this is really interesting because it gives people a perspective of time.
Sure.
Just one example of you as Tamara, the mother of Janna. Mm-hmm. How would you say your grief over the loss of Janna has shaped you? And secondly, how has your grief changed and developed over all those years?
It's definitely, I always say trauma or grief has been my teacher. And it's really developed where I can see a bigger picture. When you're in it, obviously you cannot see it. I mean, I try to tell people, when you have childbirth, think about the pain that you go through that goes with that. You can never relive that pain. I can't not ever access it. I can't. And thank God our memories don't do that to us. Otherwise, number one, we never have babies again. But even surgeries, when you think of us, for men that don't understand, any type of surgery, any type of injury, that initial excruciating pain that you go through, you cannot access it again. But it has developed and it's scarred over and it's grown and it's taught layers of it. I tell parents, don't listen to what people tell you. Please don't listen. If they have not gone through a loss, please don't listen to them. And even if they have, you have to develop your own sense of who you are through your grief. I had a person tell me, I know exactly how you feel. I lost my dog. And I just have to. So I prepare people to keep your hands in your pockets sometimes so you don't punch people because we can be very reactive, and we can, so it has morphed into, I've been able to internalize it in a way where, like I said, it's been a teacher for me. It's been wisdom. It's been growth. I was 34. I'm going to be 62 next month. And it's just like, I was a baby practically going through this, mm-hmm. but I've seen the things that I can handle. It's taught me to let go of things that no longer serve me, that if you're not here to support me, because I used to be a lot in drama, a lot. I mean, and it was part of who I was. And I'm like, oh, wait, I can't handle it. My nervous system can't handle it. I've had multiple surgeries. I have multiple illnesses as a result of my own autoimmune and the car accident.
Mhm.
I'm still looking at another surgery. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. And my spine is so still messed up. And I don't know if I'm going to be fused all the way. I try to take each day. This is my day. What am I going to do with it? What's going to come my way? And know that whatever it is, I can handle it. I didn't know that in the beginning. I was like a baby trying to crawl and fall and hit myself and tumble and bruise. And now I'm on my third marriage. So I had those lessons to learn. I've basically been homeless a couple times. I've had to learn. I'm like, okay, God, where are we going? Faith has been huge for me. I hated God, hated him. How dare you? Then I'm like, if you broke this, you better fix it. I was mad and angry, and all that's part of it. It's okay. Let that anger, move you into something better. So it's just transitioned into this ginormous ball of fire into just this little flame.
That's a beautiful
it's
picture.
just, it's really contained itself. Now, it doesn't mean I don't get scared if someone else is driving and I go around the curve, or it's menopause is awful. The trauma came back again full fold. Right? I see a psychiatrist, got medications. And even that in and of itself brought out a better person. But it literally went from a ball of fire. That's how I vision it, into this flame. And actually, flame draws people towards it, right? And so I'm doing that. I've calmed down and I've been able to, people can watch what I do, and I can walk the talk, so to speak. Don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. And other parents and other families can reach out to me and, what are you doing? How did you get there? And hopefully I can guide them. When you think of a little flame in the dark, just follow me. One of my friends called me, huh?
Yeah, you continue. I'll say it after.
One of my friends called me her flashlight.
That's a beautiful picture that you painted in terms of fire, or a big ball of fire, you said, which now became a small flame or a flame. It's like you walk with fire, you contain the fire, you mastered or helped the fire to become manageable, and you're carrying it forward like a torch. That's a beautiful metaphor for grief.
Exactly. Yeah.
The one I've never heard. So that's really beautiful. Thank you. So maybe as well for grieving parents to hear that, they hear a story of your life and of your different challenges and traumas that you've experienced. Your daughter's death coincides with your trauma of the accident, and that's an important thing that is difficult to deal with, because it's you dealing with your own physical trauma, and an accident is a trauma beside the dealings that you had with your body, but in itself, and then Janna's death. So what would you want other grieving parents to know, given your journey following the loss of your daughter? What would you want them to know to bring it to a...
I really want them to know they can get through it. Look at other parents, reach out to other parents and ask them what they did. Ask them, people would say, you don't understand. I'm like, honey, I was driving the car that killed my child. I understand. And it's really being gentle with themselves, being patient with themselves, forgiving themselves. That is, and what can you do to come out of yourself? Because we want to walk around, owning our, like a torch. I'm a grieving parent. Look at me. And I don't want to be that person. I'm more than that. I want people to know that my child was alive, and honor them in ways by staying alive, number one, and doing something with that grief, turning it into something that is tangible for somebody else, because it's not ours. It's all of ours. It's something to be shared with other people, because when in sharing it cuts it in half almost, and it makes it more manageable, I find. It was Barbara Bush that had a quote, a really profound quote, and it was talking about that, because I think she lost a child also. The death of a child is so painful, both emotionally and spiritually, that I truly wondered if my own heart and spirit would ever heal. I soon learned that I could help myself best by helping others.
Mm.
Yes. And it's, in my grief also, I had written a poem.
I remember that, yeah.
You remember the poem?
If you want to share it, yeah.
Oh, shoot. Now I have to find I forgot. Oh, where's my notes? I know it's in my notes. Because I had.
So while you're looking, anyway,
Yes.
we're going to put all the links as well to Healing Hugs in the show notes, so people will find it there. If you want to connect to Tamara Gabriel and see what she has been doing to her story, she has a website with all of that on. So please go and find Tamara as well, as a way to learn more about your story, and Janna as well on the picture there. And
well, one of the things too that I unfortunately got hacked on my Healing Hugs page.
Okay.
I had 2.7 million people, and I got hacked in August.
Mm.
Yes. And I just was devastated. I mean, I cried for days over it.
And as mentioned, while you're still looking for it, Janna has been one of the people that I interviewed for the book Grieving Parents Surviving Loss as a Couple, the first book. And so when you read that book, you'll find a lot of quotes from Tamara in there as ways that I took experiences of grieving parents that had to deal with the loss of their child and their experiences. So we will put that poem that you mentioned maybe also in the show notes so people can read it, because I think it's also as part of the book, because I remember specifically the poem that we spoke about when we first.
I found it.
You found it. Let's read it.
If you see me, do not run. I know that talk is not much fun. I know your heart's so sure to tug, but all I need is just a hug. The days are good, the days are bad. Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad. But just to know that you are there is all I need to know you care. You will see me all over town. Life goes on all around. I don't know if you know. I don't know where to go. I know you're scared, and so am I. So don't be afraid to see me cry. I see the care in all your eyes. I feel your sadness and distant goodbyes. I know you're glad not to be in my shoes. It's sure not easy to have my blues. I am a mom, alive and well. I have a son who's doing swell. So if you see me, do not run. I know for sure talk is not fun. I know your hearts are sure to tug, but please, for Janna, just give me a hug. And that's because I was in a grocery store and someone saw me and ran away. And I went and wrote the poem. And I was trying to teach our community what to do when they saw me, because I was very active in the community. And I came up with Healing Hugs because I wanted it to be a symbol of grief, that when people saw it, they didn't say anything, because sometimes they do say not so nice things or dumb things. They mean well, but people would read the poem literally at the grocery store and come give me a hug. They're like, I read your poem.
Beautiful.
And the green in my stands for compassion and the heart chakra. Mm-hmm. And the purple stands for crown and the community and spirituality. So bringing them together is community and spirituality, which is what I'm trying to teach, is empathy and compassion for people.
Well, thank you so much, Tamara. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for sharing so much about your personal journey, and to honor Janna in this way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to How to Deal with Grief and Trauma. If you'd like to be updated on future episodes, please subscribe to my newsletter on nataliehimmelrich.com. If you need grief support, please contact me for a 30 minutes free discovery session. How to Deal with Grief and Trauma is produced and edited by me, Natalie Himmelrich. To support this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you. And remember to keep breathing. I promise it will get easier.